Hey man, this is a radio I took out of my van. See, I got my dashboard all torn apart. Once upon a time, they used to put some schematics on here so you know where the wires go. As you can see, there's none. This is my aftermarket radio. Same thing. They gave me this. So I went down the list, studied these numbers on the graph there, and I just wrote this down. I'm gonna tape that on the back of my new stereo. This is the harness for my new radio. No, someone might say that I cheated by doing this. I'm really not going to use all this stuff. Basically, these things plug into here. If you got a car that uses that one, you'll use that one. And these wires go to those wires. But I don't really want all that junk packed back there. And besides, if I put the harness, if I leave it in there, this radio won't have any wires. So I have some ideas. And the reason the reference is so important is the wires that go to your radio are not colored the same. These purple, red, green wires go to these red, purple, green wires, so I guess aftermarket stuff has got some continuity through it. But on your car, they've got all these bizarre colors. So if I follow this chart with my new plug-in, I'll be able to find all the wires and where they go. Okay, basically I took the converter kit, laid it side by side with the harness that goes to my radio, and I've just kind of been systematically putting all the matching wires together, and basically I've been doing it like this. I've got these purple ones left. A lot of these wires aren't going to get used. And purple with the black stripe. Turn that off. Put a little wire nut on there. Really tight. There. Now, already I could probably plug this right into my radio and these harness sides into my dash and cram all this in there. I'd be good to go. But I've got a different idea of identifying the wires that are in my dash and taking the harnesses out and putting them with my radio, the factory radio, in case, you know, it needs to be used at a later date. Identifier taped on my radio, so that'll help me if I'm ever doing something different with this. So yeah, this harness plugs in there. I'm looking at this. I can identify which wire goes to which color. It looks to me like yellow goes to green, red goes to white, and black goes to black. And then on the speaker wires, they're totally different in color. But by holding these harnesses together, I can identify it. Cut the wire from the harness. Then I'm going to cut this wire from this harness. Strip these wires. And I've got the good fortune of having a really good crimper. There. Now, if I go through one at a time, this is going to take a little bit of time, I will have my radio harness for my new radio tapped right into the harness of the dash, and they'll be connected by these wire nuts, so that even if at a later date I need to replace the radio, all the dash wires will be identified by the new aftermarket wire colors. So that's why I'm doing it that way. Sorry, it's getting dark on me. I'm moving to the flashlight now. After I videotaped that first wire, I went ahead and did the negative wire because I hadn't disconnected the battery, but I assure you, after I connected this one, I went and disconnected my battery before I messed with these hot wires. So yeah, don't play with the radio until you have that disconnected, if you don't already know. Okay, so that's how I did it. I just lined these up with the wires that came out here, even though the colors were totally different. Now you can see that there's an orange wire there and an orange wire there. That's for lights. Another radio might be connected to your dash lights. This one does not have that feature. No orange wires there, so all this other stuff is obsolete. So I've got the power side done. Now what I'm going to do with these other wires is I'm just going to trim them off at the same length. And I guess I can just put this with this. But to cap these off, I mean, you could do this with tape or wire nuts or crimpers or whatever. I'm going to put a piece of heat shrink tubing on the end of each of these wires that I'm not using. So those wires are capped off now. We won't worry about them anymore. They're there if you need them, but we're not using them in this application. So there, this is the power side of my harness. So that's about a third the way through the job. There's 8 speaker wires. do here. So as you can see, this is going to be a little bit more involved. It looks like purple's going to go to orange. Alright. Oh, no, I have to double check on that. It looks like orange goes to white. And I can tell that by putting these together. So orange goes to white. And I strip these. I don't have the best stripper, but it's what I have. Alright, there's my first speaker wire. Alright, 7 more to go. I'm gonna get busy with this. I'm on my last wire. And basically, once I got started, I just went from one side to the other. See? I got one more. Black to purple. Upon cutting this last black wire, I'm free of the harness. And I'm gonna cut this one here. There. That just cuts the whole thing loose. Now put these together. I guess it goes like this. Well, anyway, there. Then I'll put this piece of paper and I'm going to tape this to my factory radio so that I'll have a references of where the wires go and everything. So it's not a complete loss. I can still use the factory radio later or give it away or something. I don't know. These wires are kind of thin. So even though I got a really good crimper, I noticed when I did the wiggle test, some of them had a slight bit of movement, which would be bad. We want these things tight, just like they're one wire. Inside, when you look inside the end of these terminals, that tube has a seam on one side. Okay, put the seam side in the up or down position so you're crushing the seam down on the wire. Because if the seam is over here, it'll just kind of like flatten it out. It doesn't give you as good a crimp. So with these really good crimpers, I don't usually worry about it too much, but on these really thin wires, it might be a little more important. See, that's good and tight. No problem there at all. And sometimes I'll take this old style crimper and I'll just kind of like pierce the side just to make damn sure. Okay. There, it's all in. And like I was like explaining earlier, I got them on these wire nuts so that if I ever have to change this for another radio, all these wires are identified, you know, based on aftermarket specs. 'Cause basically, getting the connection kit was mostly for the information. I'm plugged in. I see the word yes. How many people have this, you think? It says CD. I got my new stereo in, but then my speakers, they sounded flappy. They weren't good. So I had to go splurge on some new ones. These were only about $30 for the pair. They should be good for what I need. My new stereo will sound much better with these new speakers. These aren't the best strippers, but it's what I have. I'm gonna put some shrink wrap on here. Negative terminal. There. Ah, red turns black if you put too much fire on it. There. Got my leads. I'm gonna cut this right at the thing. I've determined that the clip side is the negative wire on all these clips. There. I've made my own terminals, so I've got my own harness, and all the wires are identified for future type if I need to. This should last a long time. I'm just gonna pierce these to make sure. No question. I'm gonna put some silicone around here so it's padded. Other side still had some stuck on there from when I put this together originally. There. These are some takeoffs I've had hoarded away for a while. Put those in the back. If any of the old ones were even decent, I'd have put one there. These things were really flappy and shot. Those are gone, so that's why I splurged on the new speakers. Yeah, I got my CD player in there. Got my dash all back together, my door panels back on. So, having the time of my life. Anybody interested in a factory radio?